Hey everyone, this is your Hairapy session with Emily. I'm your host, Emily Mazur, aka Portland Hairstylist. Well, before starting this podcast, I had been thinking about it for almost a year. I would talk with my clients, coworkers, and friends about it. One day, when I used to work at 77 Salon, I was hanging out in the break room when our color rep showed up. I always loved talking with Jill, and I told her about my idea for a show. She said, "You know what? You should really check out this company called Zibahub and speak with Mandana. It's a beauty app which was created here being Portland." So I reached out to her and we met at Ken's Bakery. It was really cool to sit down with Mandana to hear her story. Zibahub, which means beautiful in Farsi, is an app that was originally created because her mother, an esthetician, was having a difficult time finding a space to lease to do her services. We, us in the beauty industry, we don't have a place to look for jobs or keep a digital resume. Most beauty professionals don't rely on digital business tools to find work. The most common way we find jobs is by walking door to door. I mean, there's LinkedIn and Craigslist, but those don't really work for us because half of us are independent contractors seeking spaces to lease, not looking for a traditional job like other industries. Zibahub is an app where beauticians can showcase their education and experience, highlight their offerings, declare their diversity and inclusion practices, and get discovered by employers and clients seeking their services. For salons, Zibahub is a recruitment tool with a work board designed specifically for the industry. Here is the interview with Mandana Salehi-Stewart, founder and CEO of Zibahub. All right, guys, I am with Mandana Salehi-Stewart, founder and CEO of the app Zibahub.
Hello.
Hi. What's so funny is because we tried to record before. Did we try to record twice before last year?
I think so.
Okay. And I think each time you blanked out the screen so I couldn't see you. And I'm like, I can't do that. So I was just complimenting you on how beautiful you look.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I was saying I look like I just woke up. But
No,
thank you.
no, you look great. Okay, so I met Mandana, I think it was 2019.
Mm,
Was it 2019?
I think we met right at the very beginning of the pandemic before things got shut down.
Yeah.
That was 20.
So I was talking to a rep, Jill, from Cosmoprof, and said, "Yeah, I think I want to start a podcast and interview people in Portland." And then she gave me your contact. Like, you should really check out Mandana, go talk to her. And I think you were actually the last person that I sat down and had coffee with. And that was at Ken's Bakery.
Yes. And who would have ever thought that would be such like a magical, like long, full experience, right? Like
I know. And you guys, I am a total phone call person. And so I'll call Mandana up and she has told me it's only you and my best friend that call me.
yeah, my parents. Yep, that's
Yeah.
it.
Well, I really like your story a lot. And we sat down for a while, I think like an hour and a half or something at Ken's. So can you go back before creating the app where you're originally from? Because you're from Iran, but
Yeah.
you made your way here to the US.
Yeah. So I was about 8 years old when my parents left Iran. And just like for a brief history lesson, there was a raging war between Iran and Iraq for about 8, 9 years. And I was born right into that war, essentially. And so most of my life in Iran, there was some kind of war going on. My dad was military, so he'd be gone for extended periods of time. Um, and my parents sort of plotted, as a lot of Iranians did during that time, an escape with hopes of getting to America. But a lot of people don't end up in America at the end. The immigration journey is not with guarantees.
Mhm.
So when my parents were planning the last couple of years um, of their time in Iran to immigrate to the US, my mom went to cosmetology school just so she could learn a universally recognized skill set that she'd be able to practice anywhere we ended up, so that she could provide for the family. As part of that immigration experience, not only do you not know where you're going to end up, but you don't really know what the circumstances are going to be, and you're
Mhm.
not really starting. Um, 99% of the time, you're not starting in a place where you even speak the language. So you're
Yeah.
going to have to start from scratch. So, cosmetology really seemed like that, almost like silver bullet. Like you could end up in Japan, you could end up in
Mhm.
Canada or anywhere in Europe, and you could do hair, right? Like
And
people are always going to need that service.
and did she start cosmetology in Turkey?
She started in Iran.
Oh, okay.
We actually turned one of our bedrooms into a hair salon
Oh,
in our
yeah, that's
house.
right. Okay. So,
So all of our neighbors would come get their hair done. But throughout the journey, when we left Iran, we ended up in Turkey, for a few months. We ended up in Germany for a few months. So it's not like you just get on a plane and you come straight to America. That's not really how it works.
what was your mom doing during that time and your dad? Like, if you guys were over in Turkey for a few months, could they even work at all?
No, once you and I don't know how things are now. I mean, it's been 30 some odd years, but
Yeah.
once we applied for political asylum, the US embassy started a case, and they start vetting the people who've applied to enter your country. And so a lot of it is background checks. There was blood work, there was interviews, and so
Mhm.
it's just a lengthy process. And all you can do is just sit still and just wait. And they might move you to the next level, or you might get rejected. For us, we started in Turkey, and the next level was to wait in Germany for a while. So
Mm.
you kind of go through phases.
And are those are called the refugee camps, right?
Yeah, so we were very, very fortunate in that we didn't end up in any refugee camps. We were in our own private like rooms, or
Oh, okay.
studio apartments or whatever. Um, my dad was a colonel in the Iranian military, so he got, I think, a little bit, different treatment maybe.
Mhm.
But a lot of ways, I think we were just very, very fortunate. So for us, like me being 8 years old, my brother was 13, it felt a lot like, something fun, like, oh, it's an adventure. I'm sure
Mhm.
for my parents, it was very nerve wracking because they were starting
Yeah.
a whole brand new life.
What
And it was terrifying, but
when you guys ended up in the US, did you end up in Portland?
we did. We came straight to
Okay.
Portland. My mom had a sibling and her stepmom who lived here, who also is a hairstylist.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was kind of her inspo for going to cosmetology school.
And did she just go for aesthetics or the whole thing?
Well, in Iran, it's really for hair.
Okay.
So, like when she went to school, it was mostly for hair. And then when we came here, she ended up going back for skincare. So, right now, all she does is facials.
Okay. Now, before you even created the app, which a lot of it had to do with your mom and her journey with
Mhm.
hair
Yeah.
or aesthetics,
Mhm.
before that, you went into school for criminal justice. Is that right?
We did.
I have it in my notes. I looked, oh yeah, I have the date and every set. I'm like going through my notes. Okay. So tell me about that.
Oh man. So when I went to school, I thought, listen, I grew up in the 80s and I watched a lot of like the original 21 Jump Street with like Johnny Depp and like Holly Robinson. And I, for some reason, thought I wanted to like work for the FBI or like work
Yeah.
undercover. I think my intentions were good, so I'm gonna give myself a pass on that. But I did. I got a criminal justice and psychology degree.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, like I legit went to school for this, and then I came out. I worked with at-risk kids for a few
Mhm.
years, and I loved it. I felt like it was really my calling to be working with teenagers because, I had kind of like a difficult patch growing up here, just being different, being, of another cloth. And so I felt like I could relate to some of these kids and I
Mhm.
could help. But ultimately, what ended up happening is I realized the way that I wanted to help did not align with the way that the system was designed, which was very
Mm,
punitive. And so it was more depressing and difficult for
mm.
me to be in those situations. And so I took those skills of, teaching GED classes and working with the at-risk youth, and I ended up as a corporate trainer.
Okay, how did you find that job then?
It was like I think I'd been doing a lot of education for about 2 or 3 years. I was teaching classes
Mhm.
to these kids, and so I remember looking in at the time. It was a paper. It was physical paper, looking for jobs.
Oh, that's so funny.
I looked in the paper for a job. There was a company that had just opened that was it was an online university.
Oh,
They
okay.
were opening a campus in Portland. It wasn't even a campus, it was like a call center really. In Portland where they were looking for people to train their staff.
Oh, okay.
And it seemed kind of to work with a lot of my background. Mind you, I got my very first job when I was 14 years old in a call
Mhm.
center. So like that was the very beginning of my professional career.
Oh, that's so
Like I
funny.
was 14, I got a work permit. I started working in call centers. And so this particular job, it was a call center, it was in education, it paid really well. At that point, I already had a college degree and it paid really well compared to what I was doing working with at-risk kids. And so I took the job. And from there, I ended up in like corporate training, sales training, and then I ended up in software land somehow, like 5, 6 years later.
How now what year was that you started to work
It was
for
early 2000s. It was
Oh,
early,
okay.
early 2000s.
And
Yeah.
then your mom, she was doing facials, like aesthetics and stuff
Mhm.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Was she
Um,
was she working with her sibling?
no, her sibling's not in the industry. Her stepmom is in the
Oh,
industry.
okay.
She wasn't. She always worked on her own. So my mom is like, the other 50% of beauty professionals, she
Mhm.
leases a space. And so she had been in different salons and different spas, just like leasing a room to do her own work. She always talked about at some point maybe like opening her own salon. But I
Mhm.
think sometimes it's more challenging for skincare
Yeah.
people to do that. You're kind of limited to a smaller space. It's not like a hair salon where you can have like
Mm.
multiple chairs. You would need to have like multiple rooms. And anyway, yeah. So she just leases a room.
So tell me, how did the creating the app come up? Well, I know you were saying it's because your mom was having a hard time finding a different place to go to.
Yeah. So
And
yeah. Um, the way it came about is I was a corporate trainer and I ended up in sales and I ended up in software. So I was doing software sales training for a number of years. Part of my daily usage was LinkedIn. So like I was
Mhm.
building sales teams, recruiting salespeople. I was um, working for a couple of different startups. And every day for at least a decade, I used LinkedIn for posting a job, like,
Mm.
finding clients, whatever it was. It was just kind of a universal tool. And at the same time, I remember every time my mom wanted to leave her, current location to go lease a different spot, she would call me and ask for help. And I would create like a spreadsheet with information that she gave me as her criteria, like the location, how much she wanted to pay for the
Mhm.
lease, the amenities. Like she always wanted to make sure there was a receptionist because her English wasn't great and she didn't have online booking. So
Mm.
she wanted to be able to use a receptionist. She wanted on-site laundry, so she didn't have to like haul her towels home every night. So like all of these things would lead to me spending an entire weekend like calling around different salons and spas, like that I would Google,
Mhm.
and asking if they had a room for rent, and then presenting a document to her and being like, "These are the options. Where do you want to go?" And at one point, it just kind of clicked for me that if there was something like a central repository of all of this information of like where the salons are, where the jobs are, what kind of amenities they offer,
Mhm.
that was just specifically for the industry, which would almost be the equivalent of a LinkedIn for the beauty industry. It
Yeah.
would make life so much easier for people like my mom and also for me having to look for her every time she would
Oh,
be
yeah,
doing.
totally. No, I remember getting out of beauty school. It was 2006, and I graduated from Northwest College in Beaverton,
Mm,
and I wanted to do an apprenticeship in Portland, and I would just have to cold call and show up at salons, and the place that I found had posted an ad on Craigslist.
yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was how I found out about them.
Yeah, I remember asking when I first came up with the concept in my head of like what this app or what this, I don't know if I even knew it was going to be an app or I thought it was a website. But the concept of it, I remember asking my sister-in-law, she was doing my hair, she's a hairstylist, but she lives in San Diego. So she was up here visiting when I had my daughter and she was doing my hair. And I was like, hey, you always talk about leaving San Diego to move to different states. When you, for example, talk about moving to New Orleans, how are you going to find a job? And she was like,
Mhm.
oh, we just walk door to door in areas that we like, like we go
Yeah.
to neighborhoods that we like. You just walk into the salon, feel it out, and say, do you guys have a chair? And I was like, whoa, that just blows my mind that anybody would be doing that. Like,
I
I haven't
know.
even thought about doing that in, 15 years because there's technology for that. So, like,
Yeah.
why would you do that? So, I think it
So,
kind of validated the need at that point.
how and then now were you now we were talking about you working at your company.
Mm.
You didn't necessarily want to leave your company, but it just kinda happened since you wanted to focus more on this app. Is that right?
Yeah. So, the part that I glossed over is I spent the last 10 years before starting Ziva building sales organizations for two other startups. And so I was familiar with the startup scene. I had been through the blood, sweat, and tears of the very early days of a startup.
Mhm.
And I had been through two exits, but they weren't mine. I did it for other
Mhm.
people. And so I knew that it was time for me to put on, the CEO hat and just start my own startup. I was terrified. I knew like the dedication and the amount of work it was going to be.
Mhm.
I had no idea it was going to be as, as hard as it's been. But when I first um, came up with the concept and I started building the MVP, the minimum viable product, the very first version, I thought that I could probably continue to work as a sales director, in my old company for at least another year because the product
Mhm.
wasn't ready. We weren't ready to go to market yet. We hadn't raised any money. And so I thought that this was going to be a side thing that I would get to do for a while until I really got serious about it. And that's not how it panned out in real life. The way
Mhm.
that it panned out was I had to make a decision to either, continue to be a sales director and, work in a place where people took me seriously as a sales director or, go off on my own and do my little project. And so,
That's
um,
a panic for sure,
yeah.
because when you left, it wasn't well, first of all, it wasn't quite planned, right? When you
Well,
left?
I talked to my husband that morning. So before I went in for the conversation, because I felt like I got to a point where I needed to come clean at work and be
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm working on something on the side. Just want to make sure that like this doesn't come back from other sources. And so I told my husband that morning, it's like, I'm gonna go have this conversation.
Mhm.
And there's a possibility that I may walk out of there today with no job. And he was like, that's fine. He was like, this is something you need to do. And you have to pursue it. And maybe that's what you need to do is just do it full time. And I was like, wow, he's like really lax about this. I don't think he knows I'm totally serious.
Yeah.
Or when I came back that day and I was like, I'm pretty sure I don't have a job anymore. He was like, okay. He was like, you burned the ships. Like, let's keep moving forward. And it was
How
incredible.
how did you there has to be some
Yeah.
panic with that, right?
Oh, there's definitely panic with that. I'm not gonna say there was no panic with that. I mean, I kind of expected a different reaction than what I got, but at the same time, I'm really big on like destiny and I'm
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
superstitious. As you know, I'm very superstitious
Yeah.
and I believe like everything happens for a reason. So I knew at that moment I was like something major is about to change in my life
That's
and
really
I'm just
cool.
gonna roll with it. And yeah, there was definitely a lot of panic, but there was there was something else that was happening in the background that I had no idea. And that the first company that I had worked for 7 years, they had an exit that I did not know about at the time when this was happening. And their exit meant that my stocks got cashed out from
Mm.
that experience. And that happened within like a week of me leaving my other job. So it was just like the timing of it. I was like, wow, here's the universe 100% validating exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
So it kind of gave you a
So
little bit of a cushion. Is
it
that right?
did, yeah. So it was just all great timing. And like I said, I felt like it was happening for a reason. It was like a sign that I was doing what I was
Hmm.
supposed to be doing.
And
And I'm really excited that it happened this way because I honestly
that's
don't
cool.
think I would have given it the time and attention it deserved if I treated it as a
Yeah.
side project.
And you have a daughter and a son.
Mhm.
How old were your children when you started to focus on the app?
They were 4 months old and 4 years old. I know.
It's like power mama.
Now, part of you kind of wonders, you're like, was this part of your like postpartum depression?
Yeah,
Like your brain
yeah,
isn't working like it's supposed to. You're like, let me create a startup.
yeah. Well, I was thinking I wanted to open a salon last year, and then I'm like, I that's not gonna work out with the
Yeah,
kids. Not right now, at least. Now how much so Ziba Hub, Ziba means
it
beautiful in Farsi.
does. Mhm.
Oh, did you have other names for the app?
I didn't. That was kind of what I wanted from the very
Oh,
beginning.
that's so sweet.
And I actually just wanted it to be Ziba, but there is this amazing industrial design firm in Portland called Ziba Design.
Oh, okay.
And we wanted to make sure they're also Iranian owned. Um, we wanted to make sure that there was no overlap or
Mm.
confusion between our company and theirs.
Oh,
And
okay.
just also out of respect, we just did Ziba Hub. And because a lot of tech companies have Hub,
Oh, okay,
and
got
we
it.
wanted to differentiate by calling it Ziba Hub. But yeah.
When is the app was it 2018?
Yeah, 2018 is when we started creating the MVP. 2019 is when we finally went to market in Portland.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
it
then
took a
so the
while to
app
build.
so when you market in Portland, the app was live then, right?
Yeah, so in April of 2019, we went live in Portland with a very small, we called it a beta test group.
Mhm.
We had a little launch party. We invited people. We gave them access to the app, and then we told them to tell their friends if they liked it. Our goal was to try to get about 300 users on the app. We figured if we got about 300 users, we would get a lot of answers. We would get a lot of validation. People would tell us what they like or don't like, and
Oh,
then
that's cool.
if we got the 300, then we could start building a real version, like a sturdy version that we can distribute more wildly. And we ended up with over 1,000 users.
That's
So
great.
it was pretty cool. Like the market response was beyond what we expected.
Was it all primarily in Portland or was it in different states?
It was mostly in Portland. We had a few users up in Seattle
Okay.
because there's a lot of, I think, reciprocity between Portland and Seattle. Like a lot of
Mhm.
people move up there and have friends up there. So somehow they found out about us in Seattle. We got some jobs that got posted to our job board in the Seattle area. But we tried to really tighten it up to just the Portland market because the problem with an app like ours, it's a marketplace app, is if you get somebody from New York City to download the app and there's no jobs in New York City, they kind of look at it once and they go, oh, there's nothing here for me, and then they
Mm.
don't use it again. And so when we do launch in New York City and there are jobs in their area, they might still have it in their head that like, oh, I already looked at this, there's nothing
Oh,
here
got
for
it.
me. So
Okay. So tell me what the because I know now because you're not only servicing stylists or beauticians, you're also doing clients. But tell me first, how does the app work for stylists or beauticians?
sure. So for industry professionals, you can use the Ziba app to create essentially a digital resume. So that was something that I always noticed my mom was lacking, was like a resume that she updated with all of her education. As an esthetician, I saw my mom going to take classes like 2, 3 times a year. She would even go to Vegas sometimes to take classes, but there was no place where she was tracking all of these investments she
Mm.
was making in herself. And so The Ziba profile for a stylist or beauty professional is really a centralized location where you can track all of your experience, all of your education, and your brand affiliations. So, like what products you're used to
Oh,
using, what
okay.
products you've used in the past. It's a reflection or a snapshot of essentially your career, like who you are. And then we also have inclusion badges that allow you to express what you stand for.
That's
So,
awesome.
the inclusion badges are anything from like LGBTQ friendly to like hijab safe for places that, that offer private one on one services to like gender affirming. They're just different inclusion badges that are an optional way for you to declare what you stand for, who you welcome, and what your business offers. And so you can use that profile once you create it to apply to jobs and lease opportunities if you want. So we have a work board where you can search and you can find those opportunities based on your criteria. So we have different silos for commission jobs than we have for lease jobs, and we have for freelance gigs, for example, or apprenticeships for those who are just graduating. Or that portfolio is what customers can now search to find you based
Now,
on the information that you enter.
how did you, because specifically, was the app just meant for beauticians?
Yeah.
For you, that's what you wanted. Now, how did you get into having clients on there?
So initially I looked at it, like I said, as like a LinkedIn, like
Mhm.
here's a place where a stylist can maintain, excuse me, I'm sorry, my allergies are really bad. Here's a place where a stylist can maintain a digital portfolio where they can track all their information and then they can look for jobs. And here's a place where salons can post jobs or opportunities for lease. That's really what I looked at initially when we started to create the app. Over time, we realized that we already have this great information, right? Like we know who Emily is, we know what Emily
Mhm.
does really well, we know where Emily works, we have her booking link, we have her website. Why not allow customers to also find Emily
Mhm.
through our app, right? It becomes another lead source for you. And we were going to add that feature in down the line once we had more users. But the pandemic really sped up our roadmap. And when we put that feature out, because last year when the pandemic happened, a lot of stylists ended up losing their clientele, not necessarily because the economy crashed, but because people were scared to come
Mhm.
back
Yeah.
to receive services because of COVID. And then also, there was an element of, well, I'm not going to the office, I'm not being seen by people, so I don't need to get services as frequently as I used
Mhm.
to. And so when we started doing focus groups and asking people what they needed after the pandemic to start recovering, a lot of people said, "Well, I need more customers." And
Mhm.
so we took that information and we created a customer portal, and we added a couple of fields. So the customer portal allows customers to tap into the Ziba app and look for stylists and beauty services based on not just the criteria we talked about. What do you do? What kind of brands do you
Right.
offer? Whatever, but also your COVID provisions. So you as a stylist can now add your COVID provisions onto your profile, so people can see what you're doing, what precautions you're taking. Are you vaccinated? Whatever it is that you want to put on there. So customers can search by that, but also after the sort of social awakening in the country last year, people started becoming more conscious of where they spend their money and what kind of businesses they support. So those inclusion badges we already had in our system, we
Mhm.
also made that available to customers to use that as search criteria.
Oh,
So
great.
now
Okay.
customers can look for BIPOC owned businesses or providers. They can look for salons or providers that support Black Lives Matter. They can look for places that offer, Black hair services, or like I said, LGBTQ, um, uh, mobility device accessible, as well as like, a slew of other inclusion badges that we have.
How do you can you keep track as to how many users are beauticians and how many users are clients?
We actually have a way when we run our reports to see the percentage that are professionals versus like customers.
And how often do you guys run the reports?
I look at them obsessively, like every day.
Oh, it's like, well, you know what? Did you see my little thing about Dr. Evil that I'm
No.
taking a break? Yeah,
Oh
on
yeah, yeah,
social
I did
media,
see that.
I'm taking a quote short End quote break.
I did see
Because
that.
I'm an addict. I am
Yeah,
an addict.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
does your husband say, like, "Stop looking at the reports"?
No, because
Oh,
he,
okay.
so my husband is actually a co-founder, so he is just
Okay, yeah.
as vested
Yeah.
in our success as I am. So he's always like, "How's it going? How many more users do you
Yeah.
have?" No, he's actually great. But I feel like I need to do a better job of like chilling out a little bit.
Yeah. How many users do you have so far?
We have about 1,500 users right now.
That's great.
Yeah,
Now, where are you guys launched at? So we're here in Portland,
we're
and you
still in Portland.
I thought you did, Washington. Didn't you do Washington already?
No, we're still in Portland. We're still in Portland. We do have some users still in Washington. So, I mean, yes, Vancouver, Washington, we definitely have users in Vancouver, Washington. That's within the radius that we cover. And then up in Seattle, we still do have several jobs listed. If anybody's listening in Seattle, please go apply. But yeah, there's still jobs in Seattle. Our next major move, though, is going to be further south. So we are looking at California,
Okay.
and we would like to launch in the California market pretty soon. We are just trying to figure out strategically how to do so with as little funds as possible because we're not the best funded tech company out there.
Yeah. Well,
Shockingly.
did you get a hold of Brittany at all? Because we were talking about that
Yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah. We've been talking to Brittany. We've
Oh,
been
she's
talking to
so
Brittany.
sweet.
She is great.
I'm sure she would help with that.
Yes, she is
Um,
wonderful.
Now going back to the bike pack community, you had just started forming, I don't know if it's like not an alliance, but you teamed up with PDX Black Unicorn.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. So last year around this time, I was noticing that there were tons of lists out there for Black owned restaurants and like
Mhm.
grocery stores and different types of businesses. But what I noticed is that there was no list out there for Black owned beauty businesses or Black beauty providers in
Mhm.
Portland. And so it just seemed like the right thing to do, being that we have, hundreds of like salons and
Mhm.
providers in the area. And I thought, why not centralize that list? And so we started to curate a list of Black owned beauty businesses in Portland and ways that people can support them. So, like links to their website where they could buy products or, gift cards or donations or whatever. And during that process, a bunch of people tagged PDX Black Unicorn. They were like, hey, PDX
Mhm.
Black Unicorn is doing something similar. And so I didn't know of PDX Black Unicorn before, but ironically, Jessica and I were both part of the Pi Incubator, which is Portland Incubator Experiment, which is it's a tech accelerator
Mhm.
here in the Portland area. And I guess we sat like one desk apart from each other in the incubator, but maybe we just weren't there at the same time. But anyway,
Hmm.
so I reached out to her and I said, hey, I'm trying to create this list. People keep tagging you. And so, what is it that you're doing and how can we do it together? And so we started talks way back then. And we just finalized a partnership very recently because what Jessica was doing is she created a website where she was curating just Black hair care providers in the Portland
Mhm.
area. It was a directory. And she was putting it in the website, and people could go search there for just, Black hair care services. What we had created was a little bit more broad than that because we were also tracking people who were creating products, people who were doing like skincare services or massage or anything related to beauty and wellness. And so what we realized is that we both had very similar objectives was, creating an inclusive place where people can find the services that they need that also align with their values that match their specific criteria. And since we already had the mobile app and the infrastructure, we decided to join forces and amplify both of our voices. So now we're
That's
working
great.
together.
When was that? Because I just saw a post about that like a month or so ago.
Yeah, like I said, we've been talking for months, but we finalized it about a month ago. And so we are now in the process of just letting people know, like, hey, you can start using the Ziba app for all of your needs. And we have those inclusion badges and different filters that, you can use to narrow down exactly what you're looking for. And if you're somebody who was using PDX Black Unicorn before, you can now register in the Ziba app, and it makes it a mobile, more hands-on experience for your customers.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So COVID, I know it's been terrible for people. Um, some things have halted, like we were talking about you hosting an event or Zibahub hosting an event, but it actually pushed you guys to reach out to clients,
Yeah.
potential clients. So in a way, it's kind of pushed you more forward in some
Mm.
aspects with the app.
It has. I know. We were in the middle of raising capital for the business at the time when COVID happened. So we are like any other tech company, as you may have noticed, we don't charge anybody to use our app. So the app
Hmm.
is free. And the way that we can do that is that we've raised money from investors to be able to create the app and create the marketplace. And so we were in the middle of raising money when COVID happened, and we raised about half of what we needed, and then everything shut down and things went sideways. And so we were forced to get really, really creative and figure
Hmm.
out, the best way to stay alive, stay afloat, and keep moving forward. And I think that the customer portal, and also including, those diversity badges, and focusing on intersectional beauty, was a big deal for us. If you look out there are apps you can use to find services for just Black hair. There are
Hmm.
apps you can use to find services for the LGBTQ community. There are apps you can use to find services for larger body plus size people. But all of those apps are very one dimensional. So our app is the only one where you can include all of those attributes, and you can find like an intersectional provider. So you could be Black, queer, in a handy, in a handicap category. Oops, sorry, no, you have to edit that one out because I have to remember what we actually call it. Oh, you could be Black, queer, and then a mobility device. You could be of a larger body. You could be Muslim wearing a hijab, and you could use all of those filters simultaneously to
Hmm.
find a provider who can provide the services that you're looking for, which is very different than having to go to several different apps and websites to piece that together.
Now, you were saying that you were halfway with investing or getting investors. Is that right?
Yes.
Are you going to be able to do that again? Like once people get vaccinated?
We're gonna look into our options as far as raising funds again. I
Okay.
think we're in a different place now. Listen, it's been very challenging, I think, for women and for people of color to
Hmm.
raise money. Historically, I think women have received less than 2% of venture capital. COVID made it even worse. So it's been, I believe, the worst year in history for women
Mm,
raising capital.
yeah.
And for people of color, it's even worse than that. And so we are not holding our breath on having major investors come to the table and say, like, we really believe in this intersectional beauty app that supports a 90% women industry. Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
we're not exactly what most investors are looking for, but we know there's somebody out there who believes in the mission, and who wants to work with us. But ultimately, I believe that we can succeed with just the support of our users. And if
Hmm.
people get really engaged and start using the app regularly, I think we can do it on our own.
And what's the goal for you guys for this year?
For this year, the goal is to get into one more state.
Okay.
So that's what
So
we're
probably
focused on. Yeah.
like California then, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
okay.
Expansion. So either California or another state that's close by. We've looked at, Nevada. We've looked at different markets. So we just
That's
need to
really
focus
cool.
on one market and then go after that market.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're doing a pretty good impact with Portland. I
Yeah,
think
Portland is
so.
good. We get great testimonials and feedback all the time. Like I get DMs that we read on Instagram all the time from people
Oh,
saying like, "Thank you for doing this," or like, "We love your app. We love how positive you guys
oh
are for our
yeah. Well,
community." Like
yeah.
it feels
Yeah.
really good. It feels really good.
And then question about that. Now clients can leave reviews for stylists on the app, is that right?
We can't do that yet. We're not
Oh,
doing that
okay.
yet. The way that we looked at it, it seemed like it would be kind of like, the other app that's out there where people leave really mean reviews all the
Oh,
time
yeah.
and people don't.
Yelp.
I was gonna say the thing. We don't want to be like that. We don't want to be a
No,
where
I
we're
don't like
breathing,
them.
negative information. But what we will probably have is some kind of a compliment system
See, I love
in
that.
future events where if somebody's really excited, then they can leave a compliment, which is, I think
I love that.
probably better information than
Oh,
people
yeah.
putting that.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to go ahead and add for this interview to people?
I would love for people to download our app. That's how
Yeah.
that's how we're here. That's how we stay afloat. So if you're in the beauty industry, we would love to have you download the app and start using it. Tell your friends about it. If you're not in the beauty industry but you're looking for services, we would also love for you to use our app and then tell your beauty industry friends about
Yeah,
it.
totally. Well, thank you, Mandana, so much for being on the show for
Thank
the third
you.
time.
Thanks for letting me do my shameless plug at the end.
No, I love it. And I have the jingle. Well, it's not, I guess it's not a jingle, it's the
Are you
write
gonna
up.
sing it?
Huh?
Are you gonna sing it?
No, well, I was gonna try and find it. Are you able to find it right now? Or
No.
no? Okay. It's like it's not super lengthy, but I was thinking about making it fun, if that's
Oh,
okay.
I can find it. Find it. Do you want me to?
Yeah, I'd love to. Just tell me what you need me to say. I know you sent it to me. I was trying to find it.
I did. Where did I send it?
You're like, "Is this too lengthy?" And I'm like, "Not at all." Oh, here it is. Ad blurb. I see it.
Probably is too lengthy.
I don't think so. I
Okay.
could say it at the beginning of the show.
Sing it.
Do, 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 do. No. Zibahub. Zibahub is the mobile app where beauty professionals grow their careers. Create a free profile to browse job opportunities and get discovered by customers seeking your skill. From balayage to box braids, use the Zibahub app to discover BIPOC, gender affirming, hijab safe, and other specialty providers who meet your needs and align with your values. Visit www.zibahub.com to learn more today. Is that good?
That was really good. You put your NPR voice back on. I love it.
You told me that before, and that's not the first time somebody has said that.
I know. I love it. I
So,
love it.
do you want me to say it with more of a higher pitch or more?
No.
No, that sounds pretty good.
Great.
I'm trying to sound like the guys from Cricket Media, the
I
Pod
love
America.
NPR. So
Yeah.
anytime I mention NPR, it's a huge compliment.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, guys, this is Mandana Salehi-Stewart, CEO and founder of Zibahub. And if you want to go ahead and learn more, where can they find you?
They can find us at www.zibahub.com. They can find us at Zibahub on Instagram, or they can email us hello@zibahub.com.
Well, thank you so much, Mandana. I'm
Thank
so glad
you.
I got to see your beautiful face.
Me too.
Yeah. All right. So that was my interview with Mandana Salehi-Stewart, creator and founder of Zibahub. You guys, you're either a client or a kick-ass person in the beauty industry listening to this show. And if you're a client who's in search of a hairstylist, barber, nail tech, or esthetician, you should really hop onto the app. Download it and check it out. And if you're in the beauty industry and in search of community, a new place to work, or have an opening at your salon, get on Zibahub Workboard and tell your industry friends to do the same. Well, thanks you guys for listening. So be safe, be healthy, and above all, be hopeful. This is your Hairapy Session with Emily. I'm your host, Emily Mazur, aka Portland Hairstylist. Show written by Emily Mazur, sponsored by Zibahub, and editing by 127 Media House.